Your blood holds a kind of secret language. It's telling a story about your health, minute by minute. So today, we're going to learn how to read it. We're decoding one of the most common, but honestly, most misunderstood lab tests out there, the metabolic panel.
Have you ever gotten a lab report back and just felt like you were trying to read a secret code? Yeah, you are not alone. But what if I told you that that whole list of numbers and acronyms is actually a super detailed snapshot of what's happening inside your body right now? Well, today, we are cracking that code. The best way to think about this panel is to picture the dashboard in your car, right? It's not just one warning light. It's a whole set of gauges giving you this real-time look at how your engine's doing. Is the fluid level right? How's the fuel supply? Are the filters clean? That's exactly what this panel tells us about our bodies. All right, so let's start with the first set of gauges on our dashboard, the electrolyte power grid. You can literally think of these as the spark of life. I mean, these are the minerals that carry the electrical charge that your nerves need to fire and your muscles need to contract. Without them, nothing moves. It's that fundamental. First up, we've got sodium. This is the main positively charged particle you'll find floating around in the fluid outside your cells. Its biggest, most important job is managing your body's hydration. There's a simple rule in biology where sodium goes, water follows. So it's basically the master regulator of your fluid balance. And with sodium, it is all about the Goldilocks principle. You don't want too much, you don't want too little. If it's too low, that's what doctors call hyponatremia. That can happen in conditions like diabetic acidosis. If it's too high, or hypernatremia, that's a classic sign of dehydration. The goal is to be just right in that sweet spot between 135 and 145. Okay, so if sodium is the king outside the cell, then potassium is absolutely the king inside the cell. And get this, the concentration is a staggering 23 times higher on the inside. This massive difference is what creates the electrical gradient for your nerve signals and muscle contractions, especially for the all-important rhythm of your heart. And just like with sodium, balance is everything. It's pretty interesting. Insulin injections can actually cause low potassium because they push it into the cells. But, it's the high potassium, or hyperkalemia, that really gets doctors' attention. Too much of it can seriously mess with the heart's electrical rhythm, and that can lead to some really dangerous arrhythmias. It's why they watch it so closely in things like kidney failure. Now, here is a fascinating and really crucial pro tip about this test. If the person drawing your blood has a tough time, some of the red blood cells can actually break open. It's a process called hemolysis. Well, remember all that potassium we said was packed inside the cells? It spills out into the sample, and that artificially jacks up the potassium level. This can create a total false alarm called pseudohyperkalemia, which is why the quality of the blood draw itself is so important. Okay, next up is chloride. This is the main negatively charged particle outside the cell, and you can pretty much think of it as sodium's loyal partner. To keep the body's electrical charge neutral and balanced, wherever that positively charged sodium goes, you can bet that negatively charged chloride is almost always following right along. But chloride has this other, really specific job where it gets its own moment in the spotlight. It's in a special test that measures the chloride level in sweat. A result over 60 is one of the absolute key indicators used to diagnose cystic fibrosis. It's just a perfect example of how the same chemical can tell completely different stories depending on where you look for it. Okay, so we've covered the electrical grid. Now let's move on to the body's internal climate control system, the acid-base balance. This is this incredibly delicate, precise act of keeping your body's pH from swinging too acidic or too alkaline, which is vital for pretty much every chemical reaction that keeps you alive. And the star player in this whole balancing act is bicarbonate. Now, it's the main way your body carries carbon dioxide around in the blood, but its most important job is to act as a buffer. Think of it like a sponge that can soak up any excess acid or base to keep your blood pH locked into a very narrow and healthy range. So the logic here is actually pretty simple. If your body is getting too acidic, a state we call metabolic acidosis, it's because your bicarbonate sponges are all being used up, so the level drops. And on the flip side, if you have way too much bicarbonate, your body drifts into metabolic alkalosis. So that one number, bicarbonate, is a direct window into your body's overall acid-base state. Now, this leads us to a really clever diagnostic tool called the anion gap. I know, it sounds super intimidating, but I promise you the math is incredibly simple. You just take your main positive ion, which is sodium, and then you subtract your two main negative ions, chloride and bicarbonate. The number that's left over, That's the gap. So, why do we even care about this gap? Because a high number is a huge red flag. It tells doctors that there are other unmeasured negative ions, which are usually acids, floating around in the blood. It's this vital clue that sends them hunting for the culprits, things like ketones from diabetic acidosis or lactic acid from some kind of severe physical stress. All right, shifting gears to our final section, we are looking at fuel, bones, and waste. And if we go back to our car analogy, this is where we check the fuel gauge, we check the strength of the car's frame, and we see how the filters are doing. So first up, the fuel gauge, glucose. This is probably the one you've heard of. It's the simple sugar that is your body's main energy source. And when you're fasting, a normal level is somewhere between 70 and 99. It's the most basic check on how your body is handling sugar. Next up, the chassis, your bones. The key players here are calcium and phosphorus, and they have this really fascinating seesaw relationship that's tightly controlled by hormones. So when calcium levels in your blood go up, phosphorus levels usually go down, and vice versa. Keeping this delicate balance is absolutely essential for your bone health. And believe me, this isn't just about numbers on a page. This chemistry has very real physical signs. When a doctor suspects someone's calcium is dangerously low, a condition called hypocalcemia, they'll often check for something called tetany. It's a very specific kind of involuntary muscle spasm, and it's a classic physical sign that the body's calcium balance is way off. And finally, let's check the body's filters, the kidneys. We do this by measuring BUN, that's blood urea nitrogen, and creatinine. Both of these are basically waste products that healthy kidneys are supposed to clear out of the blood. So it's pretty simple. If their levels start to rise, it's a great clue that the filtration system might be having some trouble. So we've looked at all the individual gauges, but the real power of this panel, the real magic, isn't in any single number. It's in reading them all together and seeing the story they're telling. So let's just take one condition, diabetic acidosis, and look how it lights up the entire panel. Sodium and chloride go down, potassium spikes up, bicarbonate plummets, which creates that metabolic acidosis. And the anion gap, it shoots way up because of all the acidic ketones. See? It's not just one morning light. The whole dashboard is blinking, and it's pointing to a very, very specific problem.
So the next time you see a metabolic panel, don't just see a random list of numbers. See it for what it truly is. It's the story of your health, written in the chemistry of your blood. And now you know how to start reading it.